I think you know by now that I have a weak spot for the ZX Spectrum. I learned Ford on that machine, you know. You may have had a few home runs since, but you never forget getting to the first base for the first time. Now, the Spectrum was a far from perfect machine. The built-in BASIC may have been a little software marvel in itself, but it was that slow. Ford programs fared a little better. On average, they were 10 to 20 times faster. But you had to load the Ford compiler first, because I've rarely seen one producing a turnkey program. And that's exactly what made this ROM extension so compelling. Imagine, you boot your machine. You're in BASIC, but you can create programs with embedded Ford. Isn't that cool? Having subroutines in blazingly fast Ford while putting it all together using the familiar ZX Basic glue? I'm sold, man. Sign me up. Well, not so hasty. First, the thing wasn't cheap. Corrected for inflation, the current microsource set you back €175, or the equivalent of $200. Less than a year later, Cura went bust, and the rights were sold to DK-Tronics. Another year went by and Quadhouse Computers became the new distributors of the microsource, and sold the device at a much lower price than was originally intended, less than half the money, and it still didn't sell. So nowadays, these things are super rare, and super collectible, and super expensive. I've seen them on eBay for about $400. But fortunately, you can also run them in the Fuse emulator, if you can obtain a ROM image, that is, which isn't that easy. But I managed to get one. I'm such a popular guy. I got real talent with people. A true people person. So when you start up, it isn't immediately clear that the ROM is active, or that anything has changed. There is the familiar Sinclair K cursor and that's it. The real magic starts when you enter Ford in RAM statements. Those RAM statements have to start with a hash, because there's another language hiding in the microsource, but that's not important right now. And then you're in for the next shock. Your definitions have to start with a % and not a colon. Cura claims that is because a colon puts the spectrum in the keyword mode, but that's not true for a double quote. So did they do their research properly before designing this thing? By the way, the code is case sensitive. I don't like that. Lowercase is much more legible in my humble opinion. Another nuisance. Best advice I can give you when working with this dongle, don't make an error. Because it will spit out some message, but most of the time it has little to do with what's actually bothering this thing. And it will change tactics in order to throw you off, believe me or not. On paper it looks like a pretty compelling and reasonable Ford implementation, but don't let that fool you. Your next annoyance is that some crucial words cannot be used inside definitions. Like put, get and copy, the only way to get access to the ZX basic variables, or .quote. So, unless you're resorting to long emit sequences, you cannot print any messages from inside your definitions. And if you thought there was an easy way around that, you haven't reckoned with some strategic lack of support of some now invaluable Ford features, like har or squote. I tried messing with a lot, but after that not a lot was happening anymore. Probably my mistake. Note Cura also doesn't like documentation, because adding any comment to your definitions tends to trigger some weird error messages. Still, I managed to do something. I was able to call a Ford subroutine, which returned an integer square root. Can't say the whole affair was exquisitely elegant, but it worked. I had to dedicate a ZX Basic variable to the call interface, but that's due to ZX Basic, not Microsource's Ford implementation. Of course, I was also able to replicate their uppercase routine, no problem here. I also tried to call some ZX Basic routines from Ford, only to find that the rules of mathematics had somehow changed. The device consistently rendered 0 as the result of 31,416 divided by 3, which was quite a surprise. Evidently surpassing a quotient of 8,192 was not part of the requirements. So I had to do the calculation by hand. The wonders of modern technology do not cease to amaze me. But there's one thing the microsource teaches you. It's your ability to express your inner emotions by uttering long sequences of profanities. I mean, that is also missing in action, which makes it kind of hard to define the .s equivalent. But displaying the top two values of the stack will do, I guess. So yeah, I was able to get a value for sine 1/3 of pi from ZX Basic. Now, the manual states in no uncertain terms that you cannot change numeric arrays from Ford. That's only partly true. If you know what you're doing, you can. You see, the spectrum tells you where the variable's area starts. Every single data type has its own header and its own length, and using that, you can hop from variable to variable until you reach your destination. Like this. And yeah, those last two variables belong to the microsource. According to the documentation, they're stack pointers. And here we go. Voila! The Ford code could have been a bit more elegant, but I found out there is no exit as well. And while we're at it, execute is also missing, as are most of the binary operators. And leave, and unloop. Lots of other stuff is missing too, but you can compensate for those one way or another. All in all, there's about 75 words in this poor things dictionary. As for the speed, it's just 3 times faster than ZX Basic, as stated in the reviews at the time. Which isn't much considering that most ZX4s are even between 5 and 10 times faster than that. And I benchmarked them myself. Now, would I have paid £45 in those days for this thing? For just the Ford? If those arithmetic errors I experienced were also present in the hardware version? No. I don't know. The rumors have it that originally a ZX Basic compiler would have occupied the space of this Ford compiler, and they couldn't manage that. So, this Ford, if I may call it that, was added instead. Fortunately, the microsource also hosts an assembler and a disassembler. I haven't tested those, but I suppose they're better than this Ford. And ending on that positive note, I'm Hans Bezemer, and this was Back and Forth.